Race bans in Formula 1. They're a rare sight these days. In fact, they're a rare sight, full stop. If you were to go through the entire history of Formula 1, you'll find that only 7 drivers have been banned from competing in a Grand Prix, with one other racing under an appeal before the ban was upheld. The most recent driver to earn this dubious honour? Kevin Magnussen, of course, who was banned from competing in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix last year after he racked up 12 penalty points on his licence, becoming the first driver to fall foul of these rules since their introduction back in 2014. But race bans aren't always about penalty points. In the past, drivers have been sidelined for ignoring yellow flags, causing collisions, or failing to serve penalties. And we're not just talking about your average backmarkers here. Even world champions like Nigel Mansell and Michael Schumacher have felt the wrath of the stewards. Before Magnussen's one race ban, it had been 12 years since a driver last faced this kind of punishment. And honestly, this driver had had it coming after 7 first lap incidents in the lead up to their ban. So you could say it was only a matter of time. I'm talking, of course, about Romain Grosjean, now known as the driver who walked out of the fire, but back then he was known as a first lap nutcase. Mark Webber's words, not mine. So let's dive into the story of how Romain added his name to the list of drivers to have been banned in Formula 1. Grosjean was midway through his first full season in Formula 1 with Lotus. I say full season because he had driven in a handful of races for the team when it was formerly Renault in 2009, after it had decided to drop the underperforming Nelson Piquet Jr. But he had failed to impress in his 7 outings, with a best finish of 13th at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the best he could manage in an otherwise poor car. With Renault deciding not to keep Grosjean on for 2010, Romain instead returned to GP2 with Dams, and the following season he took 5 wins en route to the title, finishing 35 points clear in the championship. The way in which he won that title, and his link to Team Instone, meant that Renault were keen to have him back for 2012, when it would be rebranded as Lotus to partner 2007 world champion Kimi Raikkonen. So in December 2011, Grosjean was confirmed as a Lotus driver, and the team was hoping that the combination of both Raikkonen's experience and Grosjean's youth would help springboard the team to near the front of the grid, where it could challenge the established top teams. At the first race in Australia, Grosjean caused a real shock when he not only outqualified Raikkonen at the first time of asking, but he put his car third on the grid, only behind the 2 McLarens of Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button. But his race was short-lived, as after dropping to 6th by the first corner, a coming together with Pastor Maldonado on the first lap broke his suspension, ending any hope of his first ever points finish. Malaysia then brought more disappointment, as Romain first made contact with Schumacher on the opening lap, spinning them both around, before he spun off himself on lap 4. But China would kick-start Grosjean's season, as he finished in 6th place, in doing so scoring his first points finish in Formula 1. And things would only get better for the Frenchman, as next time out in Bahrain he secured his maiden podium finish. Further strong drives in Spain and Canada, where he finished a career best second, surrounded another first lap DNF in Monaco, before a strong run in Valencia looked destined to result in a 3rd podium of the season, until alternator failure cruelly denied him while running second to eventual winner Fernando Alonso. That 3rd podium would come in Hungary 3 races later, as he again joined Raikkonen on the rostrum after qualifying the day before on the front row, meaning Romain went into the summer break in good spirits. Without a doubt, he'd shown flashes of brilliance in that first half of the season, but otherwise he'd been a little, well, too crash-friendly. When everyone returned after the break, the championship headed to Spa. At this stage in the season, Alonso led the championship by 40 points from Webber, with Vettel 2 points further back. Grosjean had 76 points to his name and sat 8th in the standings, and with his and Raikkonen's points totaled together, Lotus were 3rd in the Constructors' battle, only a point behind McLaren. Qualifying didn't go as well as Romain would have liked, qualifying down in 9th while Kimi was on the 2nd row, but the Lotus was known to be stronger in race trim in 2012, so another points finish was surely on the cards. As the cars lined up on the grid, Kobayashi's Sauber was seen smoking on the front row, but by the time the cars got to La Source, that was the least of the problems. First of all, Maldonado got a little too eager to get on with the race and jumped the start, while Grosjean behind got off the line well and made up a couple of positions. Romain had Hamilton on his inside but seemed to misjudge where the McLaren was as they approached turn 1, squeezed him towards the grass and they touched wheels. Both were now out of control, heading straight towards the cars ahead of them. This was only going to end in tears. Sure enough, it did. Grosjean flew into the back of Perez and became airborne, then flew over the front of Alonso's Ferrari, missing Nando's head by inches, before resting by the barriers in the runoff. Hamilton too was unable to avoid contact with other cars, crashing into Alonso and Kobayashi, with the damage instantly putting him out on the spot. 4 cars were out there and then, and it was fortunate that all of the drivers involved managed to walk away unharmed, but it had been a lucky escape. If you recall, Hamilton immediately climbed from his McLaren and went straight over to Grosjean, pointing his finger at his helmet as if to say to Romain, "What were you thinking?" or words to that effect. While the race did continue after an early safety car period, the multi-car crash would be investigated by the stewards after the race, and it didn't take long for them to reach their verdict. Grosjean was deemed to be wholly to blame for the incident, and as well as receiving a $50,000 fine, he would also receive a race ban for the next race at Monza. This is what the stewards said in their verdict. The stewards regard this incident as an extremely serious breach of the regulations, which had the potential to cause injury to others. The stewards note the team conceded the action of the driver was an extremely serious mistake and error of judgment. Neither the team nor the driver made any submission in the mitigation of penalty. It was a major call by the stewards to decide that Romain's driving in the lead up to that accident was worthy of a race ban. But I guess that it was their way of getting their message across to the drivers that if they drive in a dangerous manner and it leads to a major accident, it simply will not be tolerated. So what did Alonso have to say about it all? Well, he said certain drivers should try and take fewer risks at the start. It's a bit of a tendency in the junior formula, but it would be better if right from the start of their career they got used to respecting more strictly the rules relating to behaviour on track. As for Grosjean, he did hold his hands up and accept responsibility for causing the accident, but he was a little bit surprised to be given a race ban. We know that La Source is a very tough corner. It's a bit of a crazy start as well, with Maldonado leaving and the Sauber smoking a lot. I did a mistake and I misjudged the gap with Lewis. I was sure I was in front of him, so a small mistake made a big incident. I didn't change my line, I went from left to right. I was not really wanting to put anyone in the wall. I'm not here to stop the race in the first corner. I'm very, very sorry and I'm glad that nobody is hurt. But I have to say, it is a very, very hard decision to hear. The incident was a real wake-up call for Grosjean that really defined his rookie season in Formula 1, and he never really recovered from that for the rest of 2012, and it did give him a bad reputation amongst the other drivers. It was the first time that a driver had been banned from competing in Formula 1 since 1994. Thankfully for Grosjean, he did mostly grow out of his incident-prone way of driving, and he did manage to have a solid career in Formula 1, managing to stand on the podium 10 times, albeit not on the top step. Formula 1 got lucky on that day in 2012. I've got no doubt about it in my mind that it only accelerated the work behind the scenes to introduce closed cockpits in Formula 1 in the near future, and ironically it would be something that would end up saving Grosjean's life in Bahrain 8 years later. So there you have it. As always, feel free to leave your comments below, hit the like button, and if you are new around here, please do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.